Hey, Cinefanatic Studio Set.
Yes, Robert.
Activate review mode.
Studio set activated.
Don't hurt yourself.
It's okay, I stretched first.
Oh, good.
Welcome to the Cinefanatics. My name's Robert Adams.
I am Chris Adams.
And we've got a review, spoiler-free, for Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle.
So, right off the top, let's address the monkey in the room, the elephant in the room, the beetle in the room, whatever animal you choose to think is in our room, with whatever space we have. Watching the trailers, doing the trailer reactions to this, both of us were like, it's a movie. It's gonna be a thing. And so there weren't very high expectations or high hopes for this. And that's always interesting to have that kind of an expectation coming off of a trailer and then go watch the movie and see if the movie changes your expectations or anything.
Yeah.
And it may or it may not. We're about to find out.
You'll have to hang tight through the spoiler-free review to find out.
First thing, though, is one of the biggest things that we talked about in those trailer reactions is how much it seems like this movie is gonna be like kind of in the same vein as like Iron Man or Upgrade. Mm-hmm. We mentioned that in the trailer reactions, and I know like a couple of y'all down below in the comments were like, "It's not like Iron Man. It's not."
It's an excellent impression of those people's voices. They absolutely 100% definitely sound like that.
Yes. The truth is, this movie is very, very similar to Iron Man and Upgrade. And it is.
It has Iron Man connections. It's a weaponized suit. There's a big major corporation, weapons corporation involved.
With an AI voice.
The suit's got an AI voice.
Like, it's Iron Man. All right. I mean,
someone's basically thrust into being a hero when they didn't expect to be thrust into being a hero in their life.
I need you to stop saying thrust.
Thrust.
But yeah, it is. I do feel like coming off of that movie, it is very similar to Iron Man and Upgrade, where the AI of the suit does kind of have a mind of its own. It does its own things in certain times.
It's AI.
It's not as wildly in control as the suit in Upgrade is, but it does have that same kind of feeling. And then there's also a part of it that I think I even may have said it in trailer reactions that's very similar to Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Specifically the part where the AI suit is saying like, hey, think of a weapon and I can conjure it or whatever. And then he pulls out this ginormous sword.
He pulls out the sword that Cloud has in Final Fantasy.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is very similar. So you could tell us all you want in the comments that it's not. It is. That aside.
Now, that being said, let's talk about how derivative this movie feels of almost every superhero movie that's come before it. I want to get this negative part out of the way first before we talk about some good stuff.
There's going to be some positive. Please hold on.
And it's something I feared going into this. It's kept me with low expectations going in. I was keeping an open mind going, hopefully this movie's going to be a ton of fun still. Hopefully it'll surprise me. That'd be very nice. It does look very generic. It does look very derivative of almost any superhero movie that we've seen at this point. And it is a little bit. It does feel very... It feels very flat and one note at times. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of style given to it. Like for me, there's moments where it feels like they wanted to lean into like an 80s synthwave style, and I feel like they just didn't commit enough stylistically to that. Other things to include like maybe a lack of a decent soundtrack to kind of back it up with. I feel like some of these things that you might see in like other superhero movies that kind of give them character and style were missing here. There were definitely even moments in the movie, and I don't know if you caught this too, but there's definitely moments in the movie where there's characters interacting and talking where there's just nothing happening in the background. It's just quiet. Mm-hmm. It feels like they ran out of budget to put some kind of backing track or some kind of, maybe not orchestrated, but some kind of composed piece of music.
Score or something.
A score. They're missing the score. They're missing something where it feels like they definitely should have those moments in there. And I understand that maybe there's a chance that they wanted to just emphasize what was going on between those characters in the moment, but music does that too. Music does help emphasize things, and I feel like there was just a bunch of that missing in places in the movie, which kind of gave this movie a lack of character or style to me that kind of left me going, I really wanted more out of this.
So I agree with the whole 80s synth part. Of course, I love that. A lot of movies...
It's a good aesthetic.
A lot of movies and TV shows seem to be doing that lately. Thank you, Stranger Things. I completely blame you for this. But not to say I don't like it. I will agree, though, that it didn't push it as much, because every time it would pop up like every 5, 6, 7 minutes, there would be like a 80s synth twang or something. The lights would reverberate or something that would feel very much like that vibe. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's got that vibe. And that's all it was doing for me, is it would keep popping up and I'd be like, oh yeah, that vibe is in this movie.
I just don't feel like they leaned into it enough.
I think it was a lot of them trying to do multiple things all over the place. Like, we've got a superhero movie, but we've also got to pay attention to this evil corporation. But then we do also still have to accentuate the family and the culture of this family. So we need to make sure we get all of that in there. And it just may be a matter of too much with it. I think sticking with the culture of the movie would have been the big part of it, because Jaime Reyes is a big cultural character in the DC comics. It's not one I can fully speak upon for obvious reasons, but
because you're paper white.
But it is something that I recognize is inherently a part of this character, and for that portion of this movie, I think it did it very well.
Yeah.
It nails that family dynamic that he has with his family, and I loved it. And yeah, I think that would have been something that needed to be more of a focus on that, and drop more of any other kind of aesthetic that this movie was seemingly trying to get.
I think you can do multiple things at once, though, and I think they could have. I think they could have done more.
It just didn't mesh well.
I think they could have leaned into it more. I go back and I know after the movie On the Way Home, we were talking about I'm saying what Marvel has done. Yes, we're gonna talk about Marvel here. Get over it. They've done things successfully. What Marvel's done is, back in 2014, when they introduced Guardians of the Galaxy, there was a lot of style and love and heart infused into Guardians of the Galaxy. A big piece is the music, but a large piece also is the art style, the aesthetic of the movie. Really went a long way. And they were able to do multiple things at once with that. And that's what I'm saying is kind of missing from this movie, is it felt like they were trying to go too safe. They're trying to color by numbers a little too much with the movie. They could have taken it a few steps further, and it would have been perfectly fine. It probably would have enhanced a lot of the story that they wanted to tell in the movie too.
Yeah. And of course, we were comparing it to Guardians of the Galaxy because at that time when that came out, those were characters that the general audience had no idea who Star-Lord, Rocket, Drax, Gamora, who any of these characters are, and now they're beloved characters. But the reason Guardians worked so well in 2014 is because you had the MCU kicked off in 2008 with Iron Man, and for the most part, Marvel earned the audience's trust. So Marvel was able to take a risk on these a-holes from the galaxy, and we all fell in love with them, and we trusted that it was going to be good. DC still has not actually done that yet.
So whereas on this side of things, we've got Blue Beetle, who is, for more or less, which is an interesting thing, because Jaime Reyes in the movie is a character who's kind of thrust into being a superhero against his will, but this movie is also kind of being pushed into the spotlight as a kind of a starter piece to the new DC universe. Don't interrupt me. A starter piece to the new. I'm making a great point here.
Yes, you are.
It's being pushed. It's being pushed into the spotlight as kind of the start of the new DC universe. Not really of its will. It's kind of because it was supposed to exist with the DCEU prior to James Gunn kind of taking over and coming in and reshaping things. But now it exists in the new James Gunn version of the DC universe.
And I wonder if that may have had like a little bit of a hand in like the stuff not meshing too well.
I don't know.
Because this movie, like, no spoilers, but this movie seemed to be devoid of anything to tie it either to the DCEU or the DCU.
Nothing hard tying. Of course, we know based on trailers and of course, in the movie, they make enough connections saying that this exists in essentially a greater DC universe. We've got references to Batman, we've got references to other heroes popping up here, but nothing is hard tying it to any one direct cast of any sort. So it could exist if they wanted to keep it in the DCEU of old, they could. If they want to say it's in the new one, they could very easily.
And I'm wondering if there was any things that may have been removed from the movie that could have pushed that vibe towards one or the other,
like a Wonder Woman cameo,
or something.
Cue the music.
Yeah. So she's cameoing in our video apparently. So that something like that, I don't know, like that might have been what happened behind the scenes, and unless Peter Safran and James Gunn.
That's your couple name.
Yeah, I'm doing the J-Lo, whatever.
The
Benifer. Yeah.
You're just all in all sorts of things going on over there.
There's a lot of stuff going through my head as I'm trying to talk.
Or not a lot.
Stop it.
Yeah, so talk about the good parts of the movie. Yes, the family aspect was really good. It was a highlight. It is where a lot of the movie's heart comes from, specifically with like George Lopez.
I know, huh?
And George Lopez was such a fun character in this movie, such a great addition to this cast, basically.
I know, huh?
And I know watching the trailers, we're like, okay, George Lopez is in here just to add like some, almost like stunt casting, just to add like a little background humor. No, George Lopez is like a major part of this movie, and yeah, he makes this movie, in my opinion. I love George Lopez in this.
I know, huh?
So him or the grandmother. The grandmother has a lot of good stuff with her as well, the Nana.
Yeah,
Nana. She has some funny things, some of which you've seen in the trailer, and like this movie just expands more on it.
Yeah.
I do want to say, like, I really do like Xolo Maridueña. Mm-hmm. His portrayal of Jaime Reyes. Again, I'm a comic book fan. I know of Blue Beetle. I'm probably more familiar with the original or older, the Ted Kord, not the original, but the older Ted Kord version of Blue Beetle.
Right.
Jaime Reyes, like, I'm really familiar because, like, maybe some of the cartoons, or he was in Smallville for, like, an episode.
Yeah,
partnering with Booster Gold. So, side note, I would love to see Booster Gold and this Blue Beetle interact. That should be a lot of fun.
That would be fun.
But yeah, I think Xolo did a really good job portraying this character. A lot of fun. Got like that innocence, but still like he's got the look of the maturity to nail this role.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's coming in here. He's obviously, a very young guy still. It sounds like he was like graduated from college at this point. And so he's like going out into the world. It's really a like sort of a coming of age story infused with the superhero story, which we've seen some of that a little bit before, but this is where I would say the movie kind of did something a little bit different with it, wherein it was the him trying to reach out into the world and try to be something in the world that kind of led him to essentially the Scarab and the whole Blue Beetle persona. I think that he did a fantastic job. I have no faults for him at all with his portrayal and what he was doing. Again, I'm also not too big on knowing Blue Beetle as a character from the comics either, so I only know based off of what I've seen in other media, say like Smallville, or if I've seen like a Justice League cartoon or something that he's popped up in, that kind of a thing. But other than that, this was kind of like a fresh introduction to Blue Beetle for me, much like going and watching the Guardians of the Galaxy movie in 2014 was for me for those characters. So again, that's kind of why I make that comparison there.
But yeah, the story seemingly was a very generic superhero origin. Most of the movie is spent with him trying to figure out these powers and why this is all happening. You've got the villains. We've got, was it Carapax? That's like the henchman. Surprisingly, we actually get some character.
He's
character out of him.
He's got some depth. He's got a little bit of depth.
Yeah, and I appreciate that out of a villain. Now, granted, he's not necessarily the major villain. Major villain is Susan Sarandon, who...
He's just the one with the powers.
Yeah, which Susan Sarandon...
She's there.
She's got a paycheck.
She came in and she earned a paycheck.
She got a paycheck for this.
You know, good on her, I guess. Susan Sarandon is a class act and a staple.
Yeah. Seeing her play a villain, though, is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That was
a different take.
That was probably the only thing that I feel like that was outside of like how we normally see her. One, it's a comic book role, which is not like a Susan Sarandon type of thing.
Yeah.
And then two, her playing a villain. The problem with that though is while watching this, I got very major. What's her face from Catwoman, the villain in Catwoman.
Yeah.
Sharon Stone.
We got there.
I got very major Sharon Stone and Catwoman vibes as Lady Haddad or whatever, the owner of this makeup. Why is she a villain? Anyways, complaints about Catwoman aside, that's what this kind of felt like. Is she was just there as the evil owner of this company that technically really doesn't belong to her. She just happened to get it because of a death in the family and
or whatever.
Like, it's just all forced, and she just doesn't do anything with that other than basically her just getting to play in this field, in this realm.
She does a little mustache twirling is what you were saying.
Yeah.
She goes, I have an idea. Haha, heroes need to be stopped. That's the kind of villain she was playing in. Yeah, I mean, did she come in and just kind of do what needed to be done on paper and just call it a day and leave? Probably. I don't really want to harp on Susan Sarandon too much because it's Susan Sarandon. She's a class act. She's a staple in Hollywood and whatnot. So it just felt like this villain, kind of anyone could have played her, basically. But overall, the movie itself, it's fine. The action sequences, some of them are actually pretty good. Some of them are a lot of fun to watch. The CGI effects during those sequences, pretty decent. Not too bad. There's a couple of moments in the movie where it's like, okay, I can see why this was kind of budgeted more for HBO Max at the time. Max now. Why it felt like it was originally budgeted for that, which is, I think, what they were saying. They were originally aiming this towards a streaming release. Mm-hmm. But then they flipped it and said, no, we're going to go ahead and release it in theaters because it's important for us to do that, which, good on them for that. I appreciate that. But it does feel like the budget kind of was more on the streaming release side than otherwise, which, hopefully maybe that helps them kind of return something in the theaters for this movie. But
yeah, the effects are there's definitely some effects in this that are not going to hold up. And I think they're not going to hold up basically by the time this movie's available to watch at home.
On Max. Yeah,
on Max. So otherwise, I think it was fun. I had a fun time with it. I thought it was enjoyable.
It was fine.
I mean, you get a good idea of what's going to happen because superhero movies already exist. So it falls into the vein of not really bringing us anything new, but just a different angle on something that we already are aware of and that we like. Which, I mean, that's essentially superheroes in general. Mm-hmm. Even if you are someone who hasn't watched these movies and all you do is read the comics, you'll find that same kind of an idea in the comics. There's only so many characters you can create that have so many different directions of their origin coming together that, yes, a lot of it is all going to sound familiar. Yeah. Superhero is an older rich guy. Who am I talking about? Tony Stark or Bruce Wayne?
Batman?
Or Iron Man?
Green Arrow.
Or Green Arrow. Yeah. So that's the point, is there's only so many things you can do with these characters. You really can't make them original. So now it's just a matter of how do we do with what we've got? Yeah. And how entertaining and how enjoyable can that be? And I think this Blue Beetle did a decent job given the circumstances.
My prediction, and we'll give some ratings here too, but my prediction is that it might not hit big in the box office right now. But I do believe that James Gunn's going to be interested in keeping this character coming back later. We might see another movie later on where he'll pop up in the credits after everyone has been like, for a while. Where'd Blue Beetle go? Are we going to see Blue Beetle again? And surprise post-credit sequence, Blue Beetle will show back up and everyone will be super excited and super enthusiastic. I think that's the direction we're going to see this all go in.
Everyone's going to be doing the Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But yeah, as far as ratings go, this one is just very middle of the road for me. I'm not like super enthusiastic about it. It's definitely got heart to it. It's definitely got some fun aspects to it. But otherwise, it's kind of the same stuff that we've seen over and over and over again. I'm just a solid 5. I am straight middle of the road on this.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It didn't do anything new or not interesting. I mean, it did interesting things, but it didn't do anything new for me. But it was still a fun ride as it is. We're going to get more movies that are like that. We've had plenty of movies like that already. They're going to keep coming. So It's just a matter of get used to it and just enjoy them for what they are. So
listen, if this movie came out in 2008 and was kicking off a whole cinematic universe,
this
I would have been all on board. But we've had so many movies since then. It's just kind of doing the same thing, you know?
Yeah. Anyways, that is going to be our review for it. What did you think of the movie? Does your opinion differ from ours? Is there anything about the movie that you found that we didn't talk about that we should have probably highlighted? Let us know down below in the comments. Don't tell us it's not Iron Man. It is Iron Man.
It's not, but
be okay with it.
It's got notes.
Come to terms.
It's got Iron Man notes.
It's thrusting Iron Man in your face. Anyway, so
Ew,
while you
weirdo.
are down there... While you are down there, make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button and come back. We're doing all kinds of fun things here. Make sure you follow us on social media on Twitter and Instagram at The Cinefanatics. You can follow me personally at Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd at Robert Adams MLP. Also, youtube.com/@RobertAdamsMLP.
And you can follow me at Chris Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, as well as twitch.tv/Chris Adams MLP.
Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching. Come back for our next one, and we will see you over there. Bye-bye. Adios.
Deactivate the set.
Crap. Done.